Okay, I want you to just, for a second, close your eyes and picture the Cambridgeshire Fens.
Mm.
If you've never been there, it's a really specific kind of place. It is flat, just relentlessly
So
flat. And you get these huge, open, gray skies that feel like they just stretch on forever. It's all farmland. It's quiet, and it's crisscrossed by these drainage ditches.
Yeah, dikes.
Exactly. And they're just sitting there all stagnant and dark. It feels, well, it feels incredibly ordinary. You know, the kind of place where nothing ever really happens.
Until something does.
Until something does. It's a landscape that hides things very, very well.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's March 2013. The weather is that classic miserable British transition. It's cold, it's damp, it's gray. And in this setting, which honestly feels like it should be the backdrop for some quiet rural drama, we get hit with something that feels like it's ripped from a slasher movie.
It was an absolute media storm.
And we're not just talking about a crime here. This is a sudden, just explosive descent into total chaos that just shattered that quiet completely.
It's interesting that you use the word chaos, because that's how it felt to everyone watching it unfold.
Yeah.
But for the person at the very center of it all, it was actually about the exact opposite. It was about absolute rigid control.
And that's the central tension, isn't it? That's what we're going to be wrestling with today. We are doing a deep dive into the Peterborough ditch murders. And specifically, we are unpacking the mind, the motives, and the actions of Joanna Christine Dennehy. Now, I know we cover a lot of dark subjects, but this one feels different. It feels rare.
It is. Statistically, it is incredibly rare. When we talk about Joanna Dennehy, we're talking about a member of maybe the most infamous and exclusive club in British criminal history.
You're talking about the sentence she received.
Exactly. She is one of only 3 women in the entire history of the United Kingdom to receive a whole life order.
Okay, let's just break that down for anyone who might not be familiar with the British legal system. A life sentence in the UK doesn't always mean your whole life, right?
Not at all. Usually you get a minimum term, say 15, 20 years, something like that. And after that, you can apply for parole.
So there's a light at the end of the tunnel, however faint.
Correct. Most lifers have that flicker of hope, a whole life order. It extinguishes that completely. It means exactly what it says on the tin.
You will never be released.
You will die in prison. There is no parole board, no review, no second chance. It is reserved for, quite literally, the worst of the worst.
And who are the other 2 women?
Myra Hindley.
The Moores murders.
And Rosemary West.
Cromwell Street. So she is in the company of monsters who are, I mean, they're household names for pure evil. Decades of infamy.
But Dennehy.
Yeah.
This was 2013. This is the modern era. The age of the iPhone, of CCTV on every street corner, of digital footprints.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be able to go on a spree like this anymore.
And yet she orchestrated this campaign of violence that was so brutal, so brazen, it felt like something from a completely different time.
Or like you said, a different reality, one she created herself. And there's one detail right from the very start that just hooks me every single time I read about this case. It's the thing that makes you stop and just say, wait, what?
I think I know what you're going to say.
One of the victims, a man, was found dumped in a ditch, dressed in a black sequined dress.
And that detail right there.
Yeah.
That is the key that unlocks her entire psychological profile.
Yeah.
It's not just about a murder weapon or a body dump site. That dress is a message.
It's a statement.
It takes the crime from just being a homicide to being a performative act of profound humiliation.
Okay, so here's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack the what, that frantic, terrifying timeline of 10 days in March that left 3 men dead and 2 more fighting for their lives.
Right.
Then we have to get into the why, and this is where it gets really dark. We're talking psychology, that concept of control you mentioned, and this baffling diagnosis of paraphilia sadomasochism.
A very specific and rare diagnosis.
And we have to talk about the accomplices, because she didn't do this alone, and I have so many questions about the men who decided to help her.
The accomplices are a fascinating study in their own right, in manipulation, in group psychology.
And finally, we have to look at the now, because unlike Myra Hindley, Joanna Dennehy is still very much alive. She's in the prison system. And from what I've read in the sources, she is not going quietly.
Not in the slightest. Her incarceration hasn't stopped her need for control. It's just changed the arena where she plays the game.
Okay, let's rewind the clock. Let's go back to March 2013, the Peterborough ditch murders. Set the scene for us with the victims, because these weren't random strangers, at least not at first.
No, and that's a classic feature of many female killers, actually. They tend to kill within their orbit. Family, husbands, lovers. Dennehy started right there.
The first victim to be discovered was a man named Kevin Lee.
Kevin Lee, yes, 48 years old.
And who was he?
He was a local property developer, a landlord. And to add another layer of complexity to this, he was also Joanna Dennehy's lover.
So he was providing her with a place to live.
That's right. He was giving her accommodation, and they were involved sexually. Now, just think about the power dynamic there for a moment.
Well, normally, the landlord has all the power.
Exactly. The landlord holds power over the tenant. But in this specific relationship, you can be sure that power balance was completely inverted. She was in charge.
He was killed on March 29th, 2013, and his body was found pretty quickly the next day, March 30th, near a place called Newborough.
Right.
And this brings us straight back to that macabre, unforgettable detail we teased. The dress.
The black sequin dress. Let's really analyze what this means. You kill someone. That is the ultimate act of removing their agency. You've ended their life. Game over.
But she didn't stop there.
Not even close. She took the time, while he was dead, to wrestle his corpse into a woman's cocktail dress.
Which is not an easy thing to do, by the way. A dead-weight body of a grown man. That takes incredible physical effort. It takes time.
A lot of time.
Yep.
Every second you spend doing that, you're at risk of being caught. So this wasn't an afterthought. This was a priority for her.
This was part of the act.
It was essential to her ritual. Psychologically, what is she doing? She is feminizing him. She's degrading him. In her mind and in the context of the sadomasochistic dynamic she operated in, she's stripping him of his masculinity.
It's a final act of mockery.
A profound act of mockery. It's her saying, you thought you were the man, the landlord, the one in charge. No, you are my toy. You are my doll to dress up.
It's incredibly disturbing. It's just the pleasure for her wasn't just in the killing itself, but in the arrangement of the body afterwards.
And that fits perfectly with that diagnosis of paraphilia sadomasochism. We'll get into the weeds of that later, but in simple terms, the pleasure, the arousal, is derived from the total domination and humiliation of the object.
And to her, Kevin Lee was just an object.
An object to be used and discarded.
But Kevin Lee wasn't the only one. This is what makes it a spree. While the police are finding him, they start to realize other men are missing.
Yes. The net widens and two more names come up. Lukasz Slaboszewski and John Chapman.
Okay, let's talk about Lukasz first. He was a Polish national living in Peterborough.
Right, 31 years old.
And the sources say he met Dennehy through, and I'm quoting here, shared interests in drink and drugs.
Which is often a polite way of saying they were moving in very marginalized, vulnerable circles.
He sounds like an easy target.
Very much so. Lukasz was vulnerable. He was likely isolated, being a foreign national, maybe without a huge support network right there in Peterborough. He was an easy person to make disappear.
And chronologically, he was killed first.
That's right. Sometime between March 19th and March 29th. The timeline is a little fuzzy on it.
And then there's John Chapman.
John Chapman, 56, a Falklands veteran. And he was her housemate. He lived with her.
So even closer to home. Killed on March 29th.
The same day as Kevin Lee.
Just stop and think about that for a second. March 29th, that is a day of absolute carnage.
It's an explosion.
She kills her housemate, John Chapman, in the very place where they both live. And on the exact same day, she also kills her lover and landlord, Kevin Lee.
It's a crescendo of violence. She's tying up loose ends, perhaps, but it's more than that. It's like a frenzy.
And notice the disposal. Kevin Lee was found quickly, the next day. But Slaboszewski and Chapman, they weren't found until April 3rd.
No, their bodies were dumped later, also in ditches near a place called Thorney. So you have the fens, this quiet landscape, suddenly becoming this graveyard, this dumping ground for the men in her life.
There is a detail about what happened to Lukasz Slaboszewski that I found physically difficult to read. It honestly made my stomach turn.
I know exactly what you're referring to.
It's about what happened in that interim period. After she killed him, but before she dumped him in the ditch.
You're talking about the bin.
The wheelie bin.
Yeah. This is one of the most chilling aspects of the entire case because it introduces a third party, someone who is neither a victim nor an accomplice in the traditional sense. A witness. A child.
A 14-year-old girl.
A 14-year-old girl. Dennehy had stored Lukasz's remains in a bin, a standard residential wheelie bin. And then she brought this teenager, a girl she had befriended, to see the body.
I cannot get my head around that. Any normal criminal, their number one instinct is self-preservation. You hide the body, you bury it, you get rid of it. You certainly don't show it to a 14-year-old girl who could run straight to the police. Why? Why would she do that?
Because for Joanna Dennehy, the crime is a performance. If you perform a masterpiece in an empty theater, does it even matter?
She needed an audience.
She needed an audience. She needed someone to validate the horror she had created. But there's a much darker element to it as well. It's about corruption.
Corruption? What do you mean?
Grooming, in a sense. If you are a psychopath, you don't view a child as an innocent being to be protected. You view them as raw material, clay to be molded.
Oh, that's horrible.
By showing that girl the body, she is dragging that child into her world. She is tainting her. She is making her complicit in the secret. It's a way of saying, look how powerful I am. Look what I can do. And now you know too. It creates this bond of trauma and fear.
It's monstrous. That's the only word for it. It paints this picture of her not just as a killer, but as a corrupter. Someone who spreads this darkness like a virus.
Precisely. And that complete lack of fear, that willingness to show the body, tells us everything we need to know. She wasn't operating out of panic. She was operating out of pure arrogance.
So by the beginning of April, we have 3 bodies. The police are swarming all over Cambridgeshire. It's a major, major investigation. Kevin Lee's body found in that dress has obviously triggered a massive media and police response.
It's headline news.
Logically, this is the part of the story where the killer goes to ground. You dye your hair, you get a fake ID, you hide in a basement, you flee the country.
Any rational criminal would do that. Any criminal motivated by money or revenge would absolutely do that.
But Joanna Dennehy,
She does the exact opposite.
she goes on a road trip.
She goes on a road trip.
And this marks the transition to the next section of our deep dive, the shift from Peterborough to Hereford. And this is a really crucial pivot point in the story, isn't it?
It's a huge escalation.
Because up until now, however horrific, she has killed men she knew, men she had some kind of relationship with.
Right. They were in her orbit.
But now she changes the game completely.
She leaves the domestic sphere of killing and enters the predatory sphere. She gets in a car with her accomplice, Gary Stretch, and we will definitely get to him in a bit, and they drive 140 miles across the country to Hereford.
Why Hereford? I mean, of all the places in the country, why there? Does she have enemies there? An ex-boyfriend? Some connection?
None. Absolutely no connection whatsoever. It's random.
Oh.
And that is what makes this next phase so utterly terrifying. When she arrives in Hereford, she isn't looking for anyone in particular. She is hunting for anyone.
And who does she find?
Dog walkers.
It's so painfully mundane. It's so innocent.
The most normal activity imaginable.
You're out walking your dog. You're probably thinking about what to have for dinner. You are in your own world. And suddenly, you are face to face with a serial killer on a mission.
She attacks 2 men, completely separately. Robin Bariza and John Rogers.
Total strangers.
Complete strangers to her and to each other. And she stabs them.
And miraculously, they both survived.
Yes, through sheer luck and rapid medical intervention. But make no mistake, the intent was to kill. She stabbed them in broad daylight. This wasn't some shadowy assassination. This was a frenzy.
And then just to cap off the surreal, bizarre nature of this violence, she steals one of their dogs.
She steals John Rogers' dog, a whippet. It's this indelicate, almost petty act of theft on top of a brutal attempted murder.
It feels chaotic, like a toddler knocking over a tower of blocks just to watch it fall, but with lethal weapons. I'm gonna stab you and I'm taking your dog. It's absurd.
It is absurd, but it speaks to that total lack of boundaries. I want it, so I take it. Whether that's your life or your pet, there's no distinction.
Okay, we have to drill down on the motive here. Because usually when we see an escalation like this, from killing known associates to random spree killing, something has snapped. But Dennehy seems lucid. She's in control. What was driving her? What was the fuel in the engine?
We actually have a quote from Dennehy herself, spoken to her accomplice, Gary Stretch, during this drive. And it answers that question with chilling simplicity.
What did she say?
She turned to him and said, I want my fun. I need you to get my fun.
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 She called stabbing random men in the street fun.
Not just fun, entertainment.
Yeah.
Stimulation. A hobby.
I am genuinely struggling to process that. I can understand anger. I can understand greed. I can even, on some level, understand revenge, however twisted. But fun, it implies she was bored.
Boredom is actually a huge factor in the psychopathic mindset, a very high boredom susceptibility. But it's more than that. Later, after her arrest, she spoke to a psychiatrist, and she described the act of killing as more-ish.
More-ish. Like a bag of crisps. Like chocolate.
Exactly. Once you pop, you can't stop. She told him she got a taste for it. This is a crucial insight. For Dennehy, violence wasn't a means to an end. It wasn't about silencing a witness or getting some money. The violence was the end.
So the act of killing provided a physiological or psychological high.
A rush, a thrill. And like any addiction, you start to build a tolerance. Killing Kevin Lee and the others. Maybe that initial high wore off. She needed a bigger hit, a stronger dose.
So she needed the thrill of the hunt, the randomness.
She needed the randomness of Hereford to get that same rush again.
That is the stuff of nightmares. Because if the motive is fun and the trigger is just opportunity, then nobody is safe. You don't have to have wronged her to become her victim. You just have to be there.
That is the very definition of a spree killer. The unpredictability is the weapon.
Okay, let's pivot. Let's get into the psychology of this. We've thrown around some heavy terms, psychopath, serial killer, but let's look at the specific profile. Who was Joanna Dennehy?
She was born in August 1982 in St. Albans, and she was a mother. She has 2 children.
An absent mother at the time of the crimes, but a mother nonetheless.
Yes, and that actually plays into her victim selection in a very, very interesting way, because we need to look at who she didn't kill.
Women.
Correct. She had a strict personal code. She told an acquaintance, a man named Mark Lloyd, who was also in the car during that Hereford trip, that she did not wish to kill a woman.
Okay.
And she was even more specific. She said she would never kill a woman with children.
That is fascinating. So she has this absolute disregard for human life. She's stabbing dog walkers for fun, but she draws this hard moral line at killing mothers.
It suggests a really complex and warped internal landscape. Maybe it's a form of narcissism. She sees herself in other mothers, so she spares them.
Or she sees men as the enemy.
Or she views men as the enemy or the oppressor that needs to be taken down. It could be that in her twisted worldview, killing a mother is bad, but killing a man is just sport.
It's almost like she was trying to maintain some shred of moral superiority. I'm a monster, but I'm not that kind of monster.
Exactly. So many criminals have these bizarre personal codes to help them rationalize their behavior. It's a way of looking in the mirror.
But she did have an ambition. Mark Lloyd also mentioned she had a target number in mind.
She wanted to kill 9 men.
9. Why 9? Is there any significance to that number?
We don't really know if the number 9 itself had a specific numerological meaning to her, but the goal behind it was very clear. She wanted to be like Bonnie and Clyde.
Of course, Bonnie and Clyde. That keeps coming up in these kinds of cases, the romantic outlaw myth.
It's the cinematic influence. She didn't see herself as a grubby murderer in a ditch. She saw herself as a star, a legend, an outlaw hero fighting against the system. The reference to Bonnie and Clyde tells us everything about her craving for notoriety.
She wanted the fame. She wanted to be remembered.
She absolutely did.
But here's the thing about Bonnie and Clyde. They were a duo, a genuine partnership. Clyde wasn't just Bonnie's driver. He was her equal partner in crime. Which brings us to the next section, the accomplices. Because Joanna Dennehy had these men around her. But they weren't exactly Clyde's, were they?
No, not at all. The dynamic was very, very different. Let's start with the main one, Gary Stretch.
Gary Stretch, formerly Gary Richards. This guy is physically enormous. He's 7 feet 3 inches tall.
He is physically imposing, a giant of a man. And yet, look at how the media and the courts described him. They called him Dennehy's nodding dog.
That is, that's just humiliating.
It is. But it captures the power dynamic perfectly. Here you have this relatively petite woman and this giant man, and yet she was holding the leash.
So what was his role specifically?
He was the driver. He was the getaway car. He drove her to Hereford. He was there when she jumped out of the car to stab people. He didn't wield the knife himself, but he facilitated the terror.
And he was convicted for it.
He was convicted of attempted murder for his role in that spree.
Why? Really, why? You're a 47-year-old man. You are 7'3". Why are you acting as a chauffeur for a serial killer half your size? Was he terrified of her? Was he in love with her? What was going on?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer is likely a toxic cocktail of both, fear and infatuation. We see this in what are sometimes called folie à cases, a shared psychosis.
Right.
Dennehy was charismatic. She was incredibly manipulative. She could be charming one minute and terrifying the next. She probably alternated between seducing him and threatening him. If she can stab a man to death and dress him in sequins, imagine what she could threaten to do to Gary Stretch if he didn't comply.
So he just becomes a tool, an extension of her will.
Precisely. A nodding dog. He completely surrendered his own agency to her.
And he wasn't the only one. There was also Leslie Layton.
Leslie Layton, 36. He was more involved in the cover-up, perverting the course of justice, helping her dispose of evidence after the Peterborough murders.
And a Robert Moore.
Robert Moore, who was 55, his charge was assisting an offender. He basically provided her with shelter when she was on the run.
It's like she had this gravitational pull. She collected these men Stretch, Leighton, Moore, and they just orbited her, doing her bidding and just completely ruining their own lives in the process.
And here's a really telling detail about their submission to her. When it came to the trial, both Stretch and Leighton stood in the dock, but they both decided not to give evidence in their own defense.
They just stayed silent.
Total silence. They didn't try to explain themselves. They didn't try to blame her. They didn't offer any mitigation. They just took it.
That feels like the ultimate sign of her control. Even when she's caught, even when they're facing decades in prison, they can't or won't break ranks. Her power over them was that absolute.
Or maybe they just knew there was nothing they could say. The evidence was just so overwhelming. But either way, that silence speaks volumes about the power she held.
So the spree ends, the police finally catch up with them, the car is stopped, and we move to the trial. Now, usually, this is where we get the big legal drama. The defense team trying to argue insanity or diminish responsibility, they try to find a loophole.
Of course. So it's November 2013. We're at the Old Bailey in London. The stage is set. The press are all there. The families of the victims are there. Everyone is bracing for weeks, maybe months of gruesome, painful testimony.
Right.
And Joanna Dennehy walks into the courtroom and drops an absolute bombshell.
She pleads guilty.
To everything. All 3 counts of murder, both counts of attempted murder, the whole lot.
Just like that. No plea deal. No negotiation with the prosecution.
Nothing. Just like that. Her own legal team was completely blindsided. The judge was visibly surprised. When she was asked by the court clerk to confirm her plea, she simply said, "I have pleaded guilty," and that's that.
And that's that. It's so dismissive. It's like she's bored with the entire process.
It's incredibly dismissive, but it's also highly strategic. Her sister, Maria, actually gave an interview where she just nailed it. She said, "I think she did that to control the situation. She likes people to know she's the boss."
There's that word again. Control.
Think about it. By pleading guilty, she completely shuts down the show. She denies the prosecution the chance to lay out their entire case in painstaking detail. She denies the victims' families the catharsis of hearing a jury deliver a guilty verdict.
She decides when it starts and she decides when it ends.
She is the writer, director, and star of her own grim play, and everyone else is just a supporting character.
And her behavior in court wasn't exactly what you'd call remorseful, was it?
Far from it. She was seen laughing in the dock, smirking at the press, treating the Old Bailey like it was a social club.
Laughing while the court is hearing the details of how she butchered 3 men.
It's the behavior of someone who is completely and utterly detached from the moral reality of their actions. And then she had an outburst. She couldn't help herself. She started shouting at the judge, "Mr. Justice Spencer."
What did she say to him?
She shouted, "I don't want to be controlled by anybody. I don't want to be controlled by my lawyers, by the police, by anybody."
Wow. She literally said the quiet part out loud. That's the thesis statement for her entire life. I will not be controlled.
And that is precisely why the sentence she received was so necessary and so fitting. Mr. Justice Spencer saw right through her. On February 28, 2014, he delivered his sentencing remarks, and he called her a cruel, calculating, selfish, and manipulative serial killer.
He did not hold back.
He couldn't. He highlighted the premeditation. He highlighted the sadomasochistic nature of the crimes, the complete and total lack of remorse, and he handed down the whole life order.
You will never be released.
The ultimate control placed upon the one woman who refused to be controlled by anyone.
Justice, finally. And usually this is where the story ends. The cell door slams, the credits roll. But with Joanna Dennehy, the story doesn't end with the sentence. If anything, the prison years are just the sequel.
It really is Joanna Dennehy, the prison years. And it is just as chaotic and dramatic as the murders themselves. Because even in a maximum security prison, she found new ways to manipulate the environment and everyone in it.
Okay, let's talk about the escape plot. This was at H&P Bronzefield, and it happened while she was on remand, right? Even before she was sentenced.
That's right. She wasn't sitting in her cell reflecting on her sins. She was writing a diary. And in that diary, she was meticulously plotting a breakout.
And this wasn't a tie bed sheets together and climb out a window kind of plot, was it?
No, this was gruesome. It was incredibly violent. The plan was to target a specific female prison officer, to kill or seriously injure them. But the key detail of the plan, She intended to cut off the officer's finger.
Why the thing?
Biometrics. To use the amputated finger and its fingerprint to bypass the prison's electronic security systems, to open the doors.
That is straight out of a really dark, gory spy thriller. It shows she was looking at the prison guards not as human beings, but as keys. Literally, I need that finger to open that door.
It is utilitarian psychopathy at its absolute worst.
So the authorities found the diary. They foiled the plot. What was the consequence?
They put her in segregation, solitary confinement. And she was there for 2 years, from September 2013 to September 2015.
So how did the woman who kills for fun handle being alone with her own thoughts?
She hated it. And in a twist that is just almost laughable if it weren't so deeply infuriating, she sued the prison service.
She sued them for what?
She sued for damages. She claimed that the prolonged isolation violated her human rights. She told the court it had left her tearful and upset.
Hold on. The woman who dressed a corpse in a sequined dress for a laugh. The woman who showed a dead body in a bin to a 14-year-old. She was tearful and upset because she was lonely.
The irony is absolutely blinding, but shows her profound narcissism. Her pain matters. Her discomfort is a human rights violation. The unimaginable pain she inflicted on dozens of people. Completely irrelevant.
Did she win? Please tell me she didn't win that case.
She did not. The High Court, specifically a Mr. Justice Singh, rejected her claim. The government lawyers argued, quite rightly, that she posed a massive risk to the public. She had plotted to sever a person's finger. Segregation was deemed necessary and proportionate.
Thank goodness for some sanity in the courts. But she didn't stay in solitary forever. She was eventually integrated back into the main prison population, and that led to romance.
Romance might be a generous term for it, but yes, relationships. In 2018, she requested official permission to marry a fellow prisoner, a woman named Haley Palmer.
Haley Palmer. I'm going to guess Haley's family wasn't buying a hat for the wedding.
They were terrified. They gave interviews saying it would endanger her. And they were absolutely right. The relationship was incredibly volatile. In 2018, Dennehy and Palmer entered into a suicide pact together in prison.
So it was just a destructive spiral.
Completely. But even after that, as late as 2021, there were reports that they still intended to marry after Palmer was released. It's a bizarre codependent situation. But then, Dennehy seemed to move on. In 2020, she was linked to another murderer, Emma Aitken.
And who is Emma Aitken?
She was serving time for killing a man and dumping his body outside a social club.
It's like a networking event for the UK's most dangerous women. She just finds the other predators and gravitates right toward them.
Birds of a feather. But there is one interaction that really stands out above all others, and it involves the other member of that whole life order club we mentioned right at the start.
Don't tell me Rose West.
How is West?
They ended up in the same prison.
For a time, yes. At Low Newton Prison in County Durham back in 2019. Now, you might think, 2 female serial killers, both serving whole life orders. Maybe they swap stories. Bond over their shared infamy.
Knowing Dennehy's absolute need to be the alpha in any situation, I seriously doubt that.
You're spot on. Upon arrival, Dennehy allegedly made it known that she was going to kill Rose West.
She threatened to kill the only other woman in the country with a sentence as heavy as hers.
It's a pure dominance display. I'm the boss of this wing. I'm the most dangerous person here. Reports at the time said that West was so terrified she was moved to another prison shortly after, although the government officially denied the move was because of that specific threat.
But the narrative is clear.
Oh, absolutely. Joanna Dennehy cannot and will not share the spotlight.
It's just exhausting hearing about it. The constant manipulation, the threats, the plots. It makes you realize that the whole life order isn't just about punishment. It's about containment. She is a force of nature that simply cannot be let out into the world.
Which brings us to the final and in some ways the most frustrating part of this whole story, the systemic failures. Because before she was a maximum security prisoner, she was a probationer.
Right. This came out after the trial. While she was killing Kevin Lee, while she was killing Lukasz and John, she was actually under the official supervision of the probation service.
She was. She had previous convictions for assault and for owning a dangerous dog. She was on their radar. She was a known quantity.
So how? How does a woman on probation go on a triple murder spree over 10 days without anyone noticing something is very wrong?
The official review of the case, done after the fact, concluded that the staff dealing with her were, and I quote, Inexperienced.
Inexperienced. That sounds like a very polite way of saying they were completely out of their depth.
Massively out of their
Yeah.
depth. You have to understand, probation officers are often overworked, dealing with huge caseloads of fairly standard offenders. And then in walks Joanna Dennehy. She's manipulative. She's charming when she wants to be. She's a pathological liar. An inexperienced officer just didn't stand a chance against that.
They saw a woman with a dangerous dog charge and some assault priors. They didn't see the predator lurking just underneath the surface.
They missed the signs. They missed the escalation. They missed the thirst for blood that she was developing. And 3 men paid the ultimate price for that bureaucratic blind spot.
It's a tragedy. And it's a lesson, isn't it? You cannot treat every offender as just a tick box exercise. Some of them are wolves in sheep's clothing. Or in this case, just wolves.
It highlights the desperate need for specialized training when dealing with severe personality disorders. A standard weekly check-in is just not enough for a psychopath.
So we've covered so much ground. We've been to the ditches of the fens. We've seen the black sequin dress. We've been in that car to Hereford for fun. We've seen the nodding dog accomplices and the laughter in the courtroom. When you step back and you look at the whole horrifying picture of Joanna Dennehy, what is the single biggest takeaway for you?
For me, it always goes back to that one word she used, more-ish. It's such a terrifyingly mundane word, but it's a profound insight into the mind of a thrill killer. We like to think of murder as having a reason: anger, money, jealousy. But Dennehy teaches us that for some people, the act itself is the reason. The suffering is the point.
For me, it's the stark contrast between the fantasy she had in her head and the grim reality. She wanted to be Bonnie and Clyde. She wanted that cinematic glamour. But there was no glamour. There was just a dirty wheelie bin and a muddy ditch and a stolen dog and a sad giant man who couldn't say no to her. It wasn't a movie. It was just pathetic, ugly waste.
That is the most important point to land on. These killers try to mythologize themselves. They want us to see the legend they've created. Our job is to strip all that away and see the sordid, sad reality underneath it all.
And yet here we are, still talking about her. The documentaries are still being made. In a way, she got her wish. She is infamous.
She is. And that is the central paradox of true crime, isn't it? We analyze them to understand them, to protect ourselves from them, but in doing so, we invariably give them the attention they so desperately crave.
I want to leave our listener with one final thought today. We have a justice system that is designed, at least in theory, for rehabilitation, or at the very least, for punishment that fits the crime. But how does any system actually cope with a Joanna Dennehy? Someone who explicitly states they kill for fun. Someone who views a prison sentence not as a punishment, but just as a new level in a game, a new stage for manipulation.
It's the ultimate challenge for the system. When a human being so completely rejects their own humanity, how do we humanely manage them for the rest of their natural life? I'm not sure we have a perfect answer to that yet.
It's a chilling thought to end on. We'll be back next time with another stack of sources and another deep dive. Until then, keep your eyes open.
And stay safe.